Hello, my name is Rick Houston, and welcome to the Scene Vault Podcast, your source for all things NASCAR history. Presented by Las Vegas Motor Speedway, America's racing showplace.
I mean, Hubert Hensley would ride around the infield when the race was over and pick up the stuff people threw out and left, coil springs and this and that.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. We were on a budget. When the races were over in post-race inspection, they started tearing the engine down every time we won. They would pull the rear end gear out and look at it. They would take my tires off and demount them and look inside the tires. And, I mean, they were just doing everything you can imagine, but we weren't cheating. Get in the car and head out for the first practice and take the thing up to 180 mile an hour, and the wall's going, it's like three walls jumping all over the place. I had double vision. I didn't realize it at the time, because driving a street car, a rental car on the highway at 70 mile an hour, I'm fine.
Not everybody would have made the decision to get out. What made you make that decision?
I hope it's wisdom.
The day NASCAR and all of us associated in any way with NASCAR forget its past, that's the day we don't have any future.
All right, so you moved from Portland to North Carolina to Vermont.
New Hampshire, actually.
New Hampshire. Then you moved from New Hampshire to Horse Pasture, Virginia.
Yep. There it is. Technically, I was in Ridgeway, but the shop was in Horse Pasture. It was a short commute. There weren't any houses in Horse Pasture.
What was that culture shock like for you?
Well, I enjoyed it.
And your family.
Yeah. I grew up in the metropolis, Portland, Oregon, but I was always out in the suburbs. I never really was, I never lived urban in my entire life. So, I liked the country. And my daughter at the time was in high school, and she went to Magna Vista High School there. And that's the best school she ever went to in her whole life. She loved it, but it broke her heart when we ended up later moving on to Asheboro, where we've been the past 33 years. Yeah. But she survived it.
That first year, again, the shop was in Ridgeway.
Yes. Well, Horse Pasture.
Horse Pasture. What were the pluses and minuses of being so far outside the Charlotte-Mooresville corridor?
I don't really know. That's an interesting question, because we were not in the hotbed. I think some of the technical stuff that was starting to happen in the hotbed, we weren't getting information right away. When I started driving for them, Pontiac had been helping me up north a little bit with Quint Bovair, and I talked to Hensleys. They had Chevys into switching them over to Pontiacs, and Pontiac agreed to help us out. They give us parts and sheet metal and everything they could, which wasn't a lot, but it was a big help. But they give us some technical support, and they even let us go into a wind tunnel. And Dave Brown with Pontiac at the time, Motorsports, he told us a few little tricks to do to the body to help that would pass tech inspection, and so we did those. But I think that stuff was probably happening a lot quicker in the hotbed and being in Horse Pasture. It's just they weren't calling and telling us it, because we were beating them anyway. Lots of
that first year, 1989, it was okay.
Yeah.
But you didn't win.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to being back? Were you satisfied with that, or did you feel like there was more left on the table?
Well, I really felt that we were very capable of winning. We led a lot of laps. We won poles. I had one and late in the race on a restart, Kenny Wallace gave me a boot from behind and had to go to went to the back or whatever. Didn't win it. We were going to win. That was Louisville, Kentucky, I think. And we just were in position a lot of times to win it, but we also had a lot of engine failures. The V6 stuff that the Hensleys had on a tight budget was getting a little old. It was Chevy engines. They were good engines. They made good power, but they were failing a lot. And I convinced them to switch over to Buick I told him I think Buicks have a little more horsepower than we got, but I really just want new stuff.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we did it, and they held up great in 1990, and we, the rest, we had a great year. We won a lot of races, a lot of poles, led a lot of laps. It was good times.
So 1989 to 1990, there was a world of difference when it came to on-track results. You won 1989, you didn't win any. 1990, you won 6 races.
Mm-hmm.
What kinds of changes were made? You said that you made the body style?
No, the bodies were the same from 89 to 90. The biggest change was the engines. We went from the Chevy V6, which was a good engine and plenty fast, but they were failing a lot. Hubert Hensley would ride around the infield when the race was over and pick up the stuff people threw out and left, coil springs and this and that.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. We were on a budget. Our first race at Daytona in 1989, we left horse pasture, and at the time we had a dually truck with a trailer, fifth wheel trailer behind it. And we get to the Georgia-Florida line, and the engine blows in the tow truck. So we pull over, and Jeff's uncle, Billy, loads up an engine and horse pasture and drives it down to us. We sleep the night at the rest area in the truck, and in the morning we pull the engine out.
Wow.
And change it when Billy gets there and head on the rest of the way to Daytona to run the race. We didn't even go get a motel. It was cold that night. Every now and then, we had a space heater in the trailer. Every now and then we'd get out of the truck and go back in the trailer and start up the space heater just to warm up a little bit.
Wow. That is awesome. You won from the pole at Hickory in mid-May, and you went to the top of the point standings where you stayed for the rest of the year. How confident were you in the team at that point?
Getting very confident, I think. We just felt we could win each and every week. And like Jeff Burton told me, he says, when you head out on the racetrack, every stop watching the pit area is on you because you're the mark. You're the one we got to beat. And I think people are getting tired of it for a while because NASCAR, when the races were over in post-race inspection, they started tearing the engine down every time we won. They would pull the rear end gear out and look at it. They would take my tires off and demount them and look inside the tires. And they were just doing everything you can imagine, but we weren't cheating. We were just had it together. Jeff and I communicated well, and we had a good team, and we were just getting it done. And Tommy Ellis, one of the competitors, he was a lot different driver than I was. He was one to attack the corners getting in and jump all over the brake, and I was a more floated in there kind of guy. And we'd discuss springs that we were running, like at Martinsville or whatever. And I'd tell him what we had, and he wouldn't believe me. You liar, you bitch. Because he'd have something radically different, but it worked for him. But what I had worked for me, and it's just the way it was.
I'm disappointed you didn't do a Tommy Ellis impersonation there. Come on, give it a shot.
Oh, man, he got mad at me once. He spun out. He was following me. I was leading the race, and he was running second. And whoever was third behind him turned him. And when the race is over, he was mad at me and blamed me for it. I said, I was spin you out. I was in front of you. He was something else.
As the season progressed, NASCAR did evidently start looking at your car pretty close. What all did they do, and did they ever find anything of note?
They never found anything that was wrong with it that didn't pass, but they tore it apart just as anything and everything they could think of. The measuring suspension components for offsets, and like I said, demounting the tires and rear end gears coming out and looking at them and tearing the motor down, carburetor, just everything you can think of.
Now,
excuse me.
When they would do something like that, was that frustrating? Or was that playing into your wheelhouse? Well, were you like going, okay, see what you can find?
In all honesty, I kind of don't blame him. I feel sure in their shoes, probably other competitors complaining he's got to be cheating, got to be something going on. And so that's just the way I looked at it. I thought, man, they have to do this. That's their job.
Yeah. You won at Orange County on August the 11th, and after that race, you led Jimmy Hensley. I guess who was a cousin?
Yeah, he was Jeff Hensley's cousin, my crew chief.
Okay.
And Hubert was Jimmy's uncle.
Okay, all right. You led Jimmy Hensley, by 367 points. You had a pretty cushy lead at that point. But from that point on, things kind of fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
Results-wise, your best finish the rest of the way was the 12th, and you finished on the lead lap just once. What happened?
I don't remember that. I forgot that part.
Yeah. Well, you got the trophy.
I don't know. Maybe you just get a little protective or whatever, thinking, man, we got a huge lead if we just watch our P's and Q's, and maybe we got a little cautious. I don't know. I'm really not sure. I know I made some errors in the wasn't the season final, but the next to last race at Rockingham, I come on the pits before we had pit road speed limits. So when it was green flag pit stop, you were coming as fast as you could, and I come in a little too fast and get on the brake and downshifting, and I spun. Actually, I just turned like 90 degrees sideways and slid to a stop and had to get back in my stall. So that cost us, a half a lap or whatever. We still finished, 17th or something, but we cinched the title that day, and with one race left on the schedule, which was Martinsville. And Martinsville, I think for the final race, I believe we were running really good, but we blew an engine or something happened. But so we just, our bad luck came at the very end. But in the meantime, we had acquired enough points that we survived it and still got the title.
Don't shoot the messenger. But a cynic would look at NASCAR looking at your car really close, and then would look at the fact that you didn't have the greatest of the second half of the season and try to put two and two together and say, maybe they found something and took it away. How would you respond to that?
Well, they're wrong. That's all I can say. Nothing changed. Nothing. It was just circumstances. It just was circumstances. We were super strong on the short tracks. I don't think late in the season there's quite as many short tracks as, but I don't know that that's it. I mean, we run good at Charlotte and we run good at Rockingham. We run good at a lot of places, but I'm not sure.
All right. After everything that you had been through, moving from Oregon to North Carolina to the north, then back to Virginia, what did it mean to take home that really big trophy?
It meant a lot.
At the end of the year.
It meant a lot, especially since I'd already gotten one on the West Coast, winning the West and West Championship, and now I won one on the East Coast. And I even had my mom and dad come out for the banquet. They were still living in Portland, Oregon at the time, and they got to come out and sit at the head table with me and introduced them. And I remember during my inception at the banquet, I mentioned all of my top competitors and talked about how little stories about each one of them, and I enjoyed the moment. It was really great. Lots of pictures with the whole team, and it was just we were all dressed up, and it was nice.
You drove for the Hensleys through 1993. How hard was it to remain as competitive as what you had been in 1990?
Well, in 91, we had a pretty good season. We think we won about 3 races, and I think we probably led the most laps and won the most poles even, but we didn't quite have the year we had in 90, but it was a good year.
Yeah.
And then in 92, we just had a bad year. I wrecked a lot, it seemed like, and we were short on cars, short on money, short on everything, and everybody else was really advancing and going forward. And it was a tough year. In fact, Dale Earnhardt even gave us one of his old cars because he knew we were about out of cars. I wrecked so many, and we were just doing the best we could with what we had. And then we kind of regrouped a little bit come 93 and got it going pretty good again. And not as dominant as we were in 90, but we were competitive, and we won a race at Martinsville, which is really cool because that's where the Hensleys are from. That was a big moment for me and the team. But I think we finished 4th in the points, and going to the final race at Atlanta, I think it was making up the snow out, so it was late in the year. I think I got up to 3rd and was running strong, and the engine blew, and so we had a chance to get 2nd in the points. We didn't have a chance to win it, but we had a chance to get 2nd. But because we blew up and dropped out early, we ended up 4th in the point standing. So, and it wasn't a lost year by most people would love to have a year like that, but
How did you wind up moving over to Bobby Allison's Cup team in 94?
Well, Cup was always my goal from the West Coast days, for a long time, and it was really hard to get there. Over the years, I probably competed in, 60 Cup races, but that spanned many, many years, 3 or 4 here, 3 or 4 there, whatever I could find. Well, I always wanted the shot to do it full time, and that call finally came from Allison in '94, but the problem was he didn't have a sponsor, which, and I thought, well, must think a lot of me to take a risk on me when he doesn't have a sponsor and put me in a Cup car full time. So, I didn't hesitate. I said, yeah, let's do it. And I thought we'd get a sponsor right away, but by gosh, we didn't. It was difficult.
Yeah. All right. So Pocono, you and Sterling Marlin have a pretty serious wreck. It took you a while to get out of the car. You were knocked out.
Yes.
Weren't you?
Yes, I was.
When did you know that you had a problem?
Well, that day when I got out of the car, I was kind of limping and I was groggy. And they took me to the Infield Care Center and decided they'd fly me to Lehigh Valley Hospital for a CAT scan and all that. And they did all that, and I was lucky. I didn't have any bleeding or swelling of the brain, but they kept me overnight just to watch me. And then the next day I flew home to Asheboro, and
so you were just in the hospital one night?
Yeah, one night.
Really?
And the next race was Michigan a week later, and they told me I didn't have any broken bones at the hospital when they CAT scanned me and that stuff. They x-rayed me, but I think they just checked the big ones. They didn't check the little ones. So turned out I had a broken wrist and a left ankle was broken, the right wrist. So I flew to Indianapolis Tuesday, and Dr. Tremmel, that did a lot of special casts for Indy cars and race car drivers, he fixed me up a cast for my right wrist because I planned on racing the next week at Michigan. And I fly back home, and then I realized my ankle's bothering me, so I go to my local doctor and get it checked, and sure enough, it's got a fracture, so I get a little boot for it and put it on. So I show up at Michigan that Friday, get ready for the first practice, get all this junk on, the casts and braces and stuff, and get in the car and head out for the first practice and take the thing up to 180 mile an hour, and the wall's going, it's like 3 walls jumping all over the place. I had double vision. I didn't realize it at the time, because driving a street car, a rental car on the highway at 70 mile an hour, I'm fine. But 170 mile an hour, I wasn't fine. It's just your eyes have to move so quick, it wouldn't keep up. And the best I can figure is when I impacted, my head stretched far enough that it stretched like the little, like fine wires go from your brainstem to the eye muscles that control what your eyes do. And one of them must have stretched a bit to where when high demand was on eyesight, it wouldn't keep up. So it would get to dancing around, whatever, and I couldn't see right. So I immediately come in and said, I can't do this. I maybe could have put a patch on the one eye and been okay, but that's no depth perception, no peripheral. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I just said, I can't do it, and then I stayed out.
There was a race at IRP, and I don't remember the year, but you had
91.
You were leading.
Yeah.
And your safety belt came loose, and you chose to stop. I don't. Did you stop on the track or in the pits?
It was like 10 to go. I was leading the race, and we were coming around to get the green. And as routine, every caution, race drivers always snug their belts up. You perspire, your seat cushion starts to thin out a little bit, and you just keep snugging them all day long. Well, I didn't know what happened, but I grabbed a hold of the part that you pull to tighten the shoulder harness a little bit, and when I did, it popped the whole business loose. I didn't really know what happened for sure, but I frantically tried to hook it up. I had a full face helmet on. I couldn't see it. And I had gloves on. I whipped the gloves off, and I'm fiddling around, and I'm thinking, I'm steering with my knees, and I'm thinking, there's no way I'm going to get this hooked up.
Chuck's on his cell phone.
So I come to a stop real quick, and I hook them up as quickly as I can, and I get going again, and they make me go to the back of the longest line, which I guess they didn't have a choice. They had to do that, which was frustrating. And, I charged back in those last 10 laps and still finished fourth, but, but I didn't win it, and I give it away that was Bobby Labonte's first ever win. But, I'm sure it flashed across my mind, you're outrunning these guys pretty good, you'll be fine. But, in a restart with 10 to go, they get pretty aggressive. And I thought, man, if I hit that wall and it kills me because I'm not buckled in, and word gets out he's dead, and he didn't have his seatbelts on. That dumb SOB, you know. And I was winning races a lot, and I thought I was going to win a lot more, and I thought, I got to stop. There's no hard decision to me. I heard people say, well, the Butler seats, they kind of wrap around you. They don't begin to wrap around you when you impact at 110 or 20 mile an hour. You're just going to go right out of that thing.
I make that statement. I guess I asked that question about IRP. Not everybody would have made the decision that you did. They would have said, the heck with it. Then when you go to Michigan, and even though you're having double vision, not everybody would have made the decision to get out. What made you make that decision?
I hope it's wisdom. I hope I'm smarter than those other guys. I don't know. It's just, I like living. And I didn't want to be a nuisance to the other guys, run over somebody, because I can't see right or whatever, at Michigan. I thought that just doesn't make sense. It's not fair. So I got out, and it really kind of hurt me because I think I become a marked man from that point the rest of my career that, well, he's not right or whatever, but I think I was more of a scapegoat in the future rides that I lost because I think it goes back to that incident, but I felt like I was driving as good as ever. I didn't come back till I could see, and I was fine. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come back. I'd have ended it right then.
You were driving for Bobby Allison at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And he had seen his career end at Pocono.
Yeah.
He had gone to Lehigh. Did you talk to him about what you were going through after your accident?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he knew it. Matter of fact, just 2 or 3 weeks later, I was supposed to run a Winston West race on an off weekend in Portland, Oregon, and arrangements were made for a good car out there, and Bobby Allison was going to be on the same trip, and he was just going to sign autographs at the Portland Speedway in my old hometown. So I got in that car just on a half mile for practice, and I said, man, I'm still not right, and I got out and let somebody else get in it. And I tested periodically. In fact, Andy Houston, several months later, let me get in his late model Sportsman at Hickory when he was there testing one day, and I just drove over there and wanted to make a few laps to see how it was doing, and I could tell it was improving. The wall, instead of going like this, it was just kind of, it was getting better. Yeah. Plus, I golfed at the time, and when the bones healed up, I went back to playing golf, and when I'd hit a drive, it'd be 2 golf balls, and when it would land and come to stop, it'd be 1 golf ball. So, and I could tell that gap that those balls were flying at was, doing this, coming back, and 9 months later, I was cured and went back racing. But it was tough. It was like I had to start over.
So your symptoms lasted for about 9 months?
Yep.
Okay.
Till they completely went away. Mm-hmm.
Was there anything did you have surgery or something, or did it just
No,
heal? They
said that it probably will just take some time to tighten back up or get its strength back up, and and then they also said later in life it may return. It hasn't yet, but I'm not driving race cars at 180 mile an hour now. So maybe it would be there. I don't know. I know at 80 mile an hour down the highway is still fine.
Yeah. You kind of mentioned this a moment ago, but you had some rides. You drove for Jack Roush in the Truck Series. Mm-hmm. You went back to the Hensleys in '99. But did you get the sense that people maybe saw you as damaged goods?
I felt that. I'm not sure if it was true or not. When Jack offered me the ride in the truck, I was pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
This would be a good place to go, and he's got good stuff and everything. But they had 2 teams at the time. Joe Ruttman was my teammate, and Jack told me when he hired me, he says, "Now I'm hiring you because I want a championship." I says, "Okay." Well, as it worked out, Joe had already been there a year prior to me and got in pretty tight with the truck crew, and he kind of got all the top guys, and I love my crew chief, great guy, truck well prepared every week, looked good, everything was nice, but he just wasn't a chassis man, and I needed one. The trucks were new to me. A lot of the tracks hadn't been to. There's a lot of new things going on, and Roush had built their own trucks from scratch, chassis and all, and I just wasn't real familiar with everything, and I needed a little more help, and we did okay. I mean, I got seconds and thirds, and right off the bat, I finished third at Homestead, and I was run good, and won a pole at Disney, like 60 some trucks there, and very competitive. But come the next year, let's see, what's his name? Oh gosh, I know him good. Greg Biffle.
Yeah.
He got a deal with Granger and Roush, and Ruttman's sponsor, LCI or something, one of them companies, was leaving. Exide was still on board. I was in the Exide truck. Well, I was odd man out because Biffle just made a deal and had this sponsor, and Ruttman, Exide didn't care who drove the truck, so Roush team decided to put Joe in it because he was above me in the list or whatever, and so I was out. But that was kind of frustrating. I thought I'd get to stay there a while. I only ran one race. The first race of the 90, I guess it would have been 98 season, after running a full year in 97, the first race of 98 at Disney, I sit in the pole and lead 125 laps or whatever, and then a few days later I get a call, sorry, your team's expired, or it's done, we're going to close it. And at the time I was under contract, best deal I ever had, and had a company car to Lincoln to drive, and benefits, and a lot of good things, a good salary, and they just continued to pay me, and every now and then somebody want me to drive something, so I had to call them and get permission, and that went on for a while, and I just didn't like that, so I just called and made a deal with them and got out of the contract, and so I could just go do whatever I wanted to do, which not much happened after that, but at least I had the freedom to go try.
You parted ways with the Hensleys about halfway through the season, the Busch Series season, I believe in 99. Did you know at that point that you weren't going to drive anymore, or did that maybe take time to develop?
No, I didn't. I was getting frustrated about the last 5 rides I had did not last very long. And like I said, I think I was the scapegoat that, we'll get rid of Chuck instead of the crew chief, or instead of this or that, or blame it on money or whatever. And, I just didn't like that much. But with the Hensleys, that was kind of a weird thing because they didn't call me and say, hey, we're replacing you. I heard about it on J-Ski on the internet.
Really?
Really. But, I let that go. That's water under the bridge. Anyway, I would have come back in a heartbeat if a good team would have called me. I still got some calls, but they were teams that, you got any sponsor? Or, you know, we got a couple cars. Stuff like that. And I just thought, I don't want to do that. I thought I'd kill myself taking a 30th place car and trying to take it to the front. I didn't want to ride at the back. I didn't want to do that. So if a good team would have called, I'm still waiting.
So you never officially retired?
Never did. But it's been a long time. A long time.
How hard was your transition out of the car?
Well, I think I don't know. It was weird. It was a little different. I guess I was frustrated enough. I didn't even go to all the races and hang out and look around. I wasn't hard to get a hold of if somebody wanted to call me. It didn't take too awful long, and it was okay. I did it for 29 years, drove race cars, and I was 45. That's nearing the end of it anyway for most drivers. In fact, these days they're even younger than that stopping.
Yeah.
But, in those days, a few of them went till maybe 48 or 50, but not a lot, not on a full-time basis anyway. So, it was okay. I really kind of, I got to, with Squire's affiliation, while I was hurting out of it, I got to do some TV commentating. He'd call me in when I was between rides or when I was injured with the double vision, and did a lot of telecasts with Squire and some with Mike Joy and others, and that was kind of fun, but I kind of decided that I didn't really want to pursue something in racing if I wasn't driving. whether it been with a team in any capacity or media or whatever. Even did MRN for a while.
Yeah.
And with Eli and Barney Hall and them, that was a lot of fun. But, I didn't really want to. For 29 years, I gave up my weekends, and I missed so many things with my daughters when they were growing up because all their stuff's on the weekends. I missed graduations. I missed birthday parties. I missed championship ball games. I missed a lot of stuff. And I thought, I'm going to try a normal life now and without all the weekends and gone all the time. And so with my grandkids, I didn't miss anything. I went to, still am, went to everything they do.
Yeah.
And I love it. And I no regrets. I like, it's just a different time of my life. And, I just kind of moved into another, like more normal type life. And I lived in Asheboro anyway. I wasn't in the hotbed of NASCAR. And I kind of liked that, didn't have to hear all the stuff at lunch every day and all, it was nice.
Yeah. What did you do after racing? I mean, for a career, did you just kind of hang out, or what did you do? My
wife's pretty smart. She had got her commercial contractor's license, and she's also a nurse. She had a nursing degree. And I love to build stuff, more houses than cars. I'd rather work with wood than metal. And so we decided to build a spec house, and we built it right close to where we live. It's actually on the same street. There's a lot. We bought it, and we built a beautiful story-and-a-half home, and it ended up being about a 10-month project, both of us full-time. And we sold it fairly quickly, and we sold it for pretty good money, and all was well. But when it was all said and done, the profit we made for an annual income for both of us really wasn't that good.
Yeah.
So we decided not to do another one, which I'm glad, because shortly after that, the market kind of fell out, and I knew some people that were sitting on 7 or 8 expensive spec homes and couldn't unload them. They went broke. Yeah. It was awful. So that was kind of a blessing in disguise. But the next year, I got up with my brother at crewschool.com in Asheboro, a little race school that we started, or they started. My sister and brother basically started it, and then I joined them a year later. And people come from around the country and do what they're doing right here at the Technical Institute. They learn how to build, fabricate. They put bodies on a car. Jim had some old Busch cars, and we'd update them with new bodies, and they'd learn how to set up chassis and fabricate and do pit stop practice. We did that too, and then we put them in the body shop. They learn how to bondo and paint. Everything they needed to know to get jobs with race teams. And those that were worthy, we got jobs with race teams. We knew so many people, and we'd make the calls for them, get them lined up with interviews. And I'll tell you, we made a lot of people's dreams come true. We really did. But we did that for about 10 years. But in all honesty, toward the end, texting was getting popular and these smartphones and stuff, and the kids' interest just weren't there. And I thought, man, I'm working hard telling them everything I know, you know, because this is what I'm doing now. And love doing it to a kid that wanted to learn it, but somebody that didn't want to learn it, I thought,
why are you here?
Yeah. In the meantime, this place had gotten going, the NASCAR Technical Institute, and they a marketing power. So our membership or our students were declining, and it was just getting harder and harder now. I wasn't enjoying it quite as much anyway, so we closed it in 2010. And then after that, I just got a little contracting job with a sign company out of Mount Airy where I was changing out Applebee restaurants. So that was kind of fun, taking off their awnings and putting up these new LED lights and signs and stuff. But that was part-time. I mean, I did maybe one every couple of weeks or something. And then I went to work with a buddy that had a just small home repair business, built a lot of showers, did a lot of tiling and stuff. And that was part-time. I could, worked about, 30 hours a week or something. And, it was just something I enjoyed to do. And I'd get off whenever I needed to or whatever. And no stress. So, and now I'm retired. Working around home all the time, doing all that stuff.
Well, my wife is retired too, and she's as busy, if not more so, than she ever was.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Now, how many kids? How many grandkids do you have?
I got 4 grand and 6 greats.
Really?
Really.
Wow. Okay. All right.
That's what I say.
So you are a full-time ball game, play, dance, sports, whatever.
Yep. And I shuttle them around a lot because my daughter works and her husband has 3 businesses going right now, so he's awful busy. And So, I help out a lot, but I love to. It's fun.
Good deal. Anything else you'd like to get across?
Let's see. Gosh, there's so much stuff. Oh, I left one part out. I don't know if you could edit it in there or not.
Sure, yeah.
Going back to 1975 when I'm at Martinsville and we go to the Hensley's and change that engine, I was sitting on the wall the next day. Word had traveled around that we lost an engine, didn't have a spare, and Walter Ballard helped us out. And Kelly Yarbrough's sitting next to me, and he says, man, you guys got a lot of guts coming all the way from 3,000 miles without a spare engine. He says, our shop's in North Wilkesboro, and we've got 3 in the truck, and one of them usually blows up on the way. And Cale also, he hired me. He was in a bind, needed a driver for North Wilkesboro, the Cup race, in like 92, I think it was. And he called me up and says, hey, I need a driver for this weekend. You want to drive it? And I says, yeah, I'll do that. And he says, well, how much you going to pay me? I said, no, Cale, I'm not doing that. You get somebody else. I said, right. He said, well, what do you got to have? So I told him what I needed. He says, okay, well, we'll see you over there.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a good story.
All right, good deal. We ask everybody that's on the show to do like a promo. If you could say something to the effect of, hey, I'm Chuck Bown, and you're listening to the Scene Vault podcast. And the name of it's right there.
Anytime. Excuse me. Hey, I'm Chuck Bown, and you're listening to the Scene Vault podcast.
Okay, that was good. A little quicker, a little more oomph, energy. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, I'm Chuck Bown. You're listening to the Scene Vault podcast.
There you go. Perfect. Whew.
All worked out really, really well.